We welcome you to another live edition of the Sports Box, brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hamilton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And by our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and check them out at www.crowdplayapp.com for details. Ladies and gentlemen, it's showtime.
Hey everybody, welcome to Cage My IQ. I'm your host, D-Bake. Joining with me as always is Miles Long. How's it going, Miles?
Oh, I'm doing all right. Not a bad day. It's a Monday, though. You know, the Mondays.
Exactly. How was your weekend?
Not too bad. Kind of slow. We had some weird-ass weather here. Like, the whole week was really just kind of off. We had a tornado warning in Houston, Texas, and then 2 days of flash flood warnings, and then more storms that led to power outages. So, like, we had all kinds of fucky week. It was all kinds of weird. But
this weekend it went up to 90 degrees here.
More
humid,
things.
and then today, and then it dropped back down to 70 today. So it was like, and it's going to be in the 70s, 80s all week, right, up to Memorial Day weekend. But as you know, we're going to be recapping UFC Fight Night 188, which was headlined by Rob Font versus Cody Garbrandt in a bantamweight matchup, ranked number 3 versus ranked number 4. It was a pretty good card in all. What did you think of the card?
I mean, I know they can't all be bangers, but this one was kind of slow as far as fight cards go, because you had like 4 of the fights. We didn't even need a third round. We're like, pretty much no, this is going to end up, like we had one finish and the rest of them kind of made the distance, but only one of them was really an interesting kind of like, oh, this one might be a little bit trickier to judge. But even then, like, not really.
And then no, I agree, but it was pretty good from just the standpoint where even though they had a couple, like one fight that was canceled like the day of or the day before, I thought it was pretty nice that at least the ones that are on the main card, they weren't like duds. They're okay, and then you had one or two really good ones, but the fight of the night was one that you didn't expect to be good.
Yeah, I mean, was okay. I think I know why it was fight of the night, though. It wasn't because of the fighting skills. That wasn't it.
No, but as always, we are Cage by IQ, the best place for MMA content. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel. We just hit 102 subscribers, so now we have the custom URL, which is at Cage My IQ now. And then I'm your host, of course, Daniel Bakley. We put out preview and recap videos and then interviews. So definitely go to YouTube, subscribe to the channel if you haven't, so you don't miss any of the action. And then once again, we're sponsored by 99 Jersey. If you don't already know, we are now partnered with 99 Jersey, the #1 shop of boutique sportswear in the U.S. Whether it's football, basketball, or baseball, 99 Jersey has you covered. Use promo code SportsBoxShow20 at checkout to get 20% off your next purchase. And don't forget to let them know we sent you. Once again, go to www.99jersey.com and use promo code SportsBoxShow20 at checkout. Be it first or up your team. Whether it's basketball, baseball, if you like Davidson, if you like Team USA, even if you like the Muddy Ducks or the Toon Squad, go to 99 Jersey to get your next sports jersey. But before we get started with this, I was going to end with it, but I'm going to actually start with it. We had an announcement during the card, which I kind of saw coming. It was former lightweight contender Paul Felder announced his retirement. What are your thoughts on this?
I I mean, he's definitely aging out. What's he, like 37, 38 now? He's getting kind of in that age where you consider retirement, unless you're going to be like a Donald Cerrone and just like to the bitter end. Like both your knees have to fail and you have to have like a crippling back injury. And then you're like, all right, one more year. You know, like, I don't know. Paul Felder hasn't really been fighting that consistently. He's kind of an older guy. He's from kind of like the first wave or second wave of MMA fighters where they're not quite as well rounded out, especially with the lightweight division the way it is. You have to be like at the top of your game, like on almost everything. Like I would say that Oliveira is probably like one of the exceptions where his grappling is just so good. It covers for the weaknesses and like his striking and stuff. But pretty much everybody else is very well rounded, like Gaethje, Dariush, Chandler, even like, RDA, Hooker, Makachev now is on the rise. Yeah. Like, it's really hard to compete now if you only got like a couple of things that you're real good at, but you're not like an overall like super well-rounded guy. So I think that kind of combination of things just makes sense. Also, he's probably making decent money as an announcer. He does it often enough, like they probably offered him a contract to keep doing it full time. And he's like, fuck it. I'm probably going to make more money doing this than fighting. Yeah, let's fucking sign me up. So I think it just made sense for him. Plus, like you said, he's only ever gotten to like number 6 in the division is the highest he ever went. So, if he couldn't do it in his prime, now with the division being as stacked as it is, and he's kind of aging out, the chances of him realistically getting a title shot are pretty fucking slim. So
yeah, and a thing underrated about this Saturday was I thought this trio did really well compared to what usually like the pay-per-view guys do, like Anik, DC, and Joe Rogan. I thought these guys were really smart. Like we've seen it before, but I like this trio. I think they're very smart. They're very knowledgeable, and they make it easier to watch the program because especially Felder and Bisping, they have that chemistry. Yeah. Just talking about the guys in the fight, and I want to see them more often now. Like maybe they could just do like the Rogan, DC, and Anik for like the pay-per-views, and you got these guys for all like the fight night and Vegas cards. That way, like it gets people more in tune, because I heard from a lot of people that they're like, these three are great. Like they made this easier, and I agree with the fans.
I think they're just better communicators, and I think DC and Anik and all those guys, especially like Joe Rogan, he's a good interviewer. He's good at asking questions. He's not always great at like conveying information, especially if it's like about an area he's not super, super strong in. Like I feel like his grappling commentary is pretty good, but it's been so long since he really did like some serious like Taekwondo stuff. I feel like when he tries to comment on the striking, sometimes it's a little off versus like Paul Felder, that's his thing. So the same thing, Bisping, that's their thing. So when they comment on the striking, usually it's very, very concise and just an overall good coverage. Even though like sometimes their grappling stuff is a little off because they're not really grapplers, but you know, that's not their strength. That's fine.
Yeah, Bisping and Felder are known for being brawlers, tough guys. But I think that's what he's going to be known for now that he's retired. Felder would take just about any fight. Like his last fight, he took on a week's notice. He wasn't going to do it, but they had nobody, so he was like, I'll do it. Like, I haven't been training. I've been running, and that's it. Yeah. And then he's just tough as nails. And then, of course, being from Philadelphia, that's like the Philadelphia mentality, being tough. Blue collar, and that's what he is. Right. So it just like you said, he wasn't the best guy. He got up to 6th ranked in the division, but I think he was above average.
Sure, he was in the top 10. Yeah, that's above average. Like
exactly.
Considering how many fighters are in that division, what's their like? Hold on, I think the average estimate right now is 2. Oh, no, I'm sorry, that's not the average estimate. Oh, man, there must be like, hold on, I got to scroll all the way down. Yeah. Close to like 50, 60 fighters in that division, and he's cracking the top 10. That's pretty solid. Like, that's more than above average. That's like almost top 10%. If they kind of rounded it out to like the hundreds, it'd be a little bit more of a cleaner estimate, but he's at least like top 80th percentile. That's pretty damn good.
It definitely is. And for him to retire, like I start coming, like I said, with him not fighting that much over the past year or two, and him focusing more on the commentary. I think he's already past fighting now, of course, and then he has a gig already, so it made it easier for him to ease into retirement.
Oh, I mean, it made sense for him too. I figure he's probably going to end up making more money in the long run commentating than he could fighting, just because that has a longer shelf life. Like you can stay commentating until you can't talk anymore, but there's a finite cutoff date for how well you can perform and still be old when you're fighting. So,
yep, we got a comment right here. My boy Donald Hill.
What's up?
Tuning in, a buddy of mine. You can check him out on the 3-Man Reeve. They talk about a little bit of everything, a lot of basketball, football, even hockey, baseball, and then even boxing. So check them out. I believe
I don't know the sports ball, but I do know the punching stuff. That's the thing I know.
Yep. But they go on every Tuesday night, so you can check them out. 3-Man Weave. Cool. But cool. Let's move to the fight card, the recaps. We had 6 fights on the main card, and the first one was right here. It was a middleweight matchup between Jack Hermannson, who improved to 22-6, 9-4 in the UFC, where he defeated Edmen Shahbazyan, who fell to 11-2, 4-2 in the UFC, and Jack won by unanimous decision. What are your first thoughts of this?
It seemed like, Shahbazyan's he's got some stuff to work on in the wrestling and the takedown defense department. He's improved a little on the ground, it looks like, from the last fight against Brunson. Like, he wasn't lost. He was like doing stuff in the second where it was like, okay, he's trying to, fight back to his feet and get out of these kind of hairy situations he's defending. But I think the other thing that kind of got him in this fight was the gas tank issue, especially because he's not a seasoned grappler. So grappling at that level for an extended period of time still takes it out of him. So I think it's a grappling issue. He needs to build up his skill set and the gas tank for being on the ground and, working that long and not just kind of giving up and going, fuck it, I'll take the bottom position, because it seemed like that's what happened in the third. But I think once he improves on that, his hands were clearly very good. It gave him the first round. It's just he's a young guy. He's still pretty green, but he's got plenty of time to kind of grow and develop his game. And it'll be interesting to see what else he does in the division. In that division, he's got some pretty decent prospects upwardly. After Hermannson, he could potentially work on that ground game, maybe come back and be a challenge for Brunson. But there's a lot of guys in here who favor striking over grappling, who I think he'd do fine against. Like, you got your Darren Till will be a challenge, but he's not really a ground guy. So it's not like the weakness that sunk him in this fight is going to sink him in that fight. Same thing with like Jared Cannonier. Paulo Costa can grapple, but he doesn't do it for some fucking reason. Same thing with Gastelum. They're both good grapplers, but they're like, nah, we're good. So I mean, there's definitely some dudes in here I think he could beat even at his skill level. It's just that in the middleweights, it's kind of a weird spot where like you have to know how to grapple, but you don't have to be an incredible grappler. Like you just have to know the basics and a little bit more. It's not like you're in the lightweights where it's just stacked with all these really strong grapplers or anything. So just give him some time. He'll come around.
Yep. No. And I thought, of course, the first round, it was a little bit more of Shahbazyan. He was able to get his striking going. This fight was basically who was able to get their game going first. And, of course, it was Shahbazyan in the beginning. He took his time. He was moving forward. Just little shots here and there. Nothing too crazy where he was trying to output Hermannson. Mm-hmm. And then I think what's crazy is I felt like he was striking more than what he was, but he really wasn't hitting him that much. It was just he was taking his time and doing a little bit of this, a little bit of that. And then all of a sudden in round 2, right away, you see Hermannson run at Shahbazyan. Yeah. And then what he did all fight to take him down was he was just getting close to him, and then just getting him down like with the leg, and then you jump on top of him. I will give Shahbazyan credit because he was getting up right away for a couple of those. But then once Hermannson gets you down, like it's hard to get back up because he's like his bread and butter is the ground and pound. It was just moving between side guard and then front guard, just hitting him in that second round. And then towards the end of the second round, Shahbazyan did have like a nice 20-second flare to end the round where it looked like he might have snuck the second round, but because of the takedowns, it was hard for him to get that. But he did try and fight back at least. He wasn't just giving up and then trying to work from his back. And then the third round, it was all Hermannson. He was doing a little bit of striking, and then he did have one takedown in that round. But if you look at the stats right there, Hermannson had 141 total strikes, 55 were significant, 44 were to the head, 3 were to the body, 8 leg kicks. He had 7 minutes and 11 seconds of control time and 3 takedowns, whereas Shahbazyan had only 42 total strikes, 40 were significant, 34 to the head, 6 to the body, no leg kicks, and only 1 minute and 51 seconds of control time. So if you just look at that, it's no-brainer that Hermannson won that. And majority of the strikes by Shahbazyan were the first round. I would say at least 20 to 25 were the first round.
26 actually. 26.
Oh, was it?
26.
That was a lucky guess by me.
Solid guess.
Yeah, I would say that, and then he must have had like 10 in the second, and then like the rest in the third, just like guessing. But like majority
actually did have 10 in the second and then 4 in the third, so he kind of tapered off there at the end.
But like he did tire out, but it wasn't like Brunson. So I think he's getting a little bit better with his gas tank a little bit. He's not just like totally tiring out and then giving up after the first round. Like he showed poise. It's just that Hermannson, once he got him down, like he was basically done because he would just keep him down, ground and pound him, and just rack up the control and then the striking. And at that point, as you see, he's over 100 total strikes more than Shahbazyan. So it was going to be hard for him to win unless he was going to get the fight standing. Because when the fight was standing, Shahbazyan was doing well. It's just that the fight was on the ground for half of the round. So
yeah, I mean that's the thing. I think part of this is also that Hermannson came in with a pretty solid strategy. Like he could kind of explode and trade volume in the punches, stand up when he wanted to. So that leads me to think in the first, he was probably just kind of like letting Shahbazyan dictate the pace a little bit, kind of get a feel for his holes in his guard, his pace. And as you kind of watch, right around the halfway point of that round, Hermannson started to put the pressure on. So like it was mostly him leading pressure, and then Shahbazyan was on the outside of the ring kind of moving away. So he was kind of getting a feel for the range, the timing, and the habits of Shahbazyan. So by the time in the second round, he was very confident to just throw that volley of punches, just go straight in and just, take the round with grappling. And I think the other thing that Shahbazyan maybe wasn't prepared for was like what kind of effect that's going to have on you mentally. It was like, there's no amount of training Shahbazyan could have done to close the gap in grappling ability between him and Hermannson. Hermannson is just too experienced. But I think maybe in his mind, he's like, all right, I've been working on my wrestling, on my jiu-jitsu. It's going to be great. And then that happens in the second round. He's like, fuck, that wasn't good. I did all that training. I thought it was going to be better than that. Holy shit. And then I think in the third, he was a little bit more hesitant. Like he was like, all right, I got to, probably go for a finish now because of that second. But I don't want to get too close or, just let my hands go because then he's going to do what he did to me in the second. So he's trying to get a finish with a knockout while also trying to stay away so he doesn't get taken down, which that never works. Like, that's not how that you have to be aggressive, or the other guy has to be really aggressive and you go counteroffensive. That's the only way. That you can't do both if the other guy's just looking to get close and take you down. So I think that's the other thing that kind of fucked him up, that he maybe didn't strategize for, that his coach didn't, prepare him well enough for, be like, all right, we planned for this. Remember we said this might happen. Here's the plan B and plan C and so on. So, but again, he's still green, still new. So that comes with the territory.
Yeah, and I believe, was it the second round that they gave Hermannson the 10-8, or was it the third?
I think it was the third, because in the second you saw Shahbazyan.
Yeah, it was the third. Yeah, because he had a lot of striking, and then he was hitting him with the elbows and the hammer fists on the ground.
Not only that, he had 4 minutes and 14 seconds of control time. That was when Shahbazyan was just on his back. He wasn't even really moving at that point. He was just planted.
Yeah, and then they interviewed Hermannson afterwards. They're like, what do you see next? And he was like, there's only one person that I haven't fought in the top 5, and it was Robert Whittaker. So it was like, if Robert Whittaker doesn't want to wait, he was like, I'm here. I'm here. He was like, I've already fought everybody else. So that would be, for me, that's the only logical choice there. So
I mean, here's the thing. Like, he does have limited options. He's correct.
Yeah.
Most of that division is already booked up. The ones he could go for, he's right, Whittaker, or because it's about to happen, the loser of Adesanya Vettori. Those are like his fighting up options. The problem is he can't win against any of them. Like, there's no fucking way he wins against any of those guys. Like, he could maybe have a shot with, I don't know, Costa, if Costa doesn't feel like doing the grappling thing, and he's a jiu-jitsu guy, so he might make the mistake of like, I'll take the back position and try to fight from the back on the ground, which that sometimes doesn't always work in your favor. He might have a better chance against like Cannonier, even like a Darren Till, maybe, if he can get past the hands. But these guys are all tied up for a while.
Yeah, well, Till's fighting Brunson.
Yeah,
they're booked. Cannonier's fighting Costa.
Yeah,
and then I think he said it because Whittaker's not booked right now. But then you had got Vettori and Adesanya booked. So I think really what he was saying was, I fought everybody else, but then at the same time, Whittaker's not doing anything. So it was like, if you want to just like spar a little bit, because that's basically what it's going to be for Whittaker, then we can go. Like, I don't blame Hermannson. And I thought at the end when he was like, they asked him about the cars on his head, and he was like, he was like, I'm just want to say, hey, can I join the group? Askren and Hooper. Yeah. And then Hooper tweeted out right afterwards. He was like, you're in. And then Bisbin was like, yeah, you better say he's in, because it's not going to look good for you if you say he's out.
Right. Right. I mean, maybe give him instead, just like as an alternative, because I think like going up at this point is gonna be real hard for him. He's aging out. There's a lot of really talented guys. Maybe have him fight down, but give him the winner of Akhmedov and Tavares, or the loser of Costa Cannonier if he wants to wait a little bit longer. But he probably has a better chance at the loser of Akhmedov and Tavares. I think that'd probably be, he would win. He would win at least, and then maybe give Shahbazyan like the loser of Hall Strickland or Gastelum or Holland, one of those guys.
We got a MMA locker room chiming in. What's up, Cage by Q?
So,
first time checking you out. Thanks for tuning in.
Welcome.
Appreciate it a lot.
Cool beans.
Yep. But let's move on to the second fight we had. It was the men's featherweight matchup. We had Ricardo Ramos. Yeah, it's pronounced Ramos instead of Ramos.
I'm going to say Ramos. I don't give a shit. I can't pronounce names. Don't make it harder on me.
He improved to 15-3, 6-2 in the UFC with the victory over Bill Algeo, who fell to 14-6, 1-2 in the UFC, in which he won by unanimous decision. What did you think of this matchup?
This was probably one of the more interesting matchups on the card. I would say, both of these guys were all right. They were okay. Now I know Ramos is kind of returning to the featherweight division. He's still kind of like getting his legs back, I think, because for a while, I think, didn't he bulk down, go into the bantamweights where he got to enjoy a bit of like a size and a strength advantage, but that's not really true anymore. He's kind of average size for the division. Now I think this game, or this fight, also shows kind of a big hole in his game in terms of the inability to keep opponents on the ground once he's taken them down. Like Algeo just kept popping up. He couldn't do shit. He could not keep that guy down. And that's kind of weird because he is a Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu black belt. So like that's kind of his thing. So I don't know if it's like a jiu-jitsu deficiency, if it's more of like a wrestling deficiency, and he's just not blending it very well with the ground abilities that he has. It's like that.
It could just be a Ramos deficiency.
That might also be the case because that's not the only deficiency he's got though. His grappling ability is going to come in handy in this division, no question. But his striking is also unrefined. It's not to the point where he can stand with the caliber of strikers that are in like the, top 5, top 10 in this division. We got some really strong strikers that I think he's just not ready for. So overall, his game needs to develop a lot more. But I think going forward, he'll probably use this as a wake-up call, hopefully. Even though he managed to walk away with a win, there's some lessons to be learned, right? Because like in the first, he started out pretty good. The exchanges were they appeared fairly even, and actually for that round they were dead even on the significant strikes, 17 and 17. It was the striking proficiencies that were different. Ramos was 62% proficient, and then Algeo was 41% proficient. So even though Algeo threw more strikes, he just kept missing. So that's why even when you look at it, you're like, oh, okay, these guys are like, fairly even. They're just kind of trading back and forth. What's going on? And then we had 2 immediate back-to-back takedowns from Ramos.
Yeah.
But he couldn't keep him down. It was impressive, but he just kept popping back up. And then the second round, that one was a little bit closer. I could see it going either way, but I felt like Ramos controlled the round overall much better than Algeo did. Because they started like with the back and forth. It was kind of even because Algeo, I think, was going counteroffensive and he wasn't, taking the initiative and being aggressive. And that kind of allowed Ramos to turn up his aggression a little bit and kind of be the first one in on a lot of these exchanges. Then after that, Algeo knee to the face that was immediately turned into a takedown, which was pretty nice. Again, he had the same problem where he just couldn't keep Algeo down. That was kind of a big moment, but he couldn't capitalize on it. And then as soon as Algeo got back to his feet, that's when he kind of became more aggressive and started being the first one in and, really turning up the pressure. And that's where I think there might be a case that Algeo took the second because he did do a lot more output towards the end of that round once he got to the feet again. But in the third, I think Ramos took it again. They were both really tired. I think they both need to work on their gas tanks, but at least Ramos was like, for the most part, playing a very smart game in the third round. He was staying out of range for Algeo, so most of Algeo's shots were missing. And then he would kind of jump in, throw a couple, 1-2s, maybe like a small combo, and then dart out again. And then he, was looking for those opportunities to force a wrestling situation. And then after about the first minute and a half, Algeo started to let his hands go a little bit more. And he had some big moments where, he got a few stuns in there. But then towards the end of the round, that's where Ramos managed to put on the wrestling pressure. I think he got in maybe one more takedown, but he had pretty good control for that last like two-ish minute and a half, 2-ish minutes. So I think that kind of secured him the 2 rounds over one potentially going to I can't remember names, Algeo. But even then, I when I originally watched it, I scored it 3-0. That was me personally. But
yeah, I think one judge. 2 judges did it 3-0, and then the one did it 2-1. If I remember correctly.
Yeah, Eric Connellan, Mike Bell both scored it 3-0, and then Derek Cleary did 28-29. So I guess he gave it first.
But just like you said, they both had a strong point, and then they both had like a glaring weakness. Ramos, of course, was his. Well, before I get into this, it was kind of funny that he dominated with the wrestling because if you remember the sit-down interviews that they had, Paul Felder mentioned it. He had said that Bill Algeo had mentioned that he thought that he was going to be the better wrestler, that his wrestling was head above Ramos's, and then in fact he got dominated by, of course, by this one small technique that I thought Ramos used perfectly each time that he got a takedown. Like he would go away from it, but every time he used the technique, it would just work every single time.
That inside leg reap.
He would put his right leg within like inside Algeo's legs, but then he would sweep down the left leg of Algeo and then just basically push him forward and then just fall on him. But then, just like you said, his weakness was he would just let him get up after like 10, 15 seconds really quickly. And then as he's getting up, he would just switch around and go to the back of Algeo and try to get like a rear naked choke. And then for some reason, he couldn't get it in each time.
Well, he couldn't get it because he was trying to like sink the hook in on the far side, but Algeo defended it every time. And that was what Bisping was saying is like, he's just taking the back and then getting dumped over the top like every time. And he has to just abandon it.
But I will say, like, that did help him wear him out a little bit each time because he did it like 5 or 6 times within the first couple rounds. Like it was like rinse, repeat, move on, and then back. But then Algeo's strength was like he was striking pretty well, but then of course his weakness was getting taken down left and right. He got taken down 4 times the first round, 2 the second, and then I think 2 the third.
Yep.
Even though, as you see here, I'll read the stats first before I talk a little bit more. Ramos had 57 total strikes, 53 were significant. He had 30 to the head, 16 to the body, 7 to the leg. He had 3 minutes and 26 seconds control time, 8 takedowns out of 13 attempts, and 1 submission attempt, whereas Algeo had 90 total strikes, 76 significant. He had 35 to the head, 25 to the body, 16 leg kicks. He had 41 seconds of control time, 0 of 1 takedown attempt, and 0 submission attempps. The grand thing when you look at this is you see that Algeo outstruck him, and then you wonder why did he not win this, and why did he lose all 3 rounds on 2 scorecards, and then he only won 1 round on the other. It was basically because of the takedowns. So the judges felt like even though he outstruck him, they felt like the striking was kind of close, and then Ramos was the aggressor majority of the fight, where they were going neck and neck on standing up. But then you have to factor in the takedowns after that, which was easily Ramos. So I think he edged out 2 rounds, and then I think he edged out round 2 and 3, and then he easily had round 1 because of the 4 takedowns. Like, right. It was just night and day how he was doing against Algeo. But they do, like you said, they do have stuff to work on. But this was an interesting matchup because they had 2 different styles that they were working with, and it worked well in this matchup more for Ramos. But I actually see more in the future for Algeo if he can defend the takedown and work on it.
My other issue with Algeo, and I think this is probably why, even though he outstruck Ramos by like a pretty decent margin, that's like 23 strikes. The difference is in his striking. One, it's like the halfway point between being technical and between being like junkyard boxing or kickboxing almost. You know what I mean? Like, he keeps the hands really low. He stays in a bladed stance, which is smart depending on what you're going for. But he swings wild a lot. He tends to go counteroffensive when it doesn't make sense. Like, no, you need to be being aggressive. That's how you rack these up. And even though he was outstriking Ramos, when he would hit, the hits didn't look like they really did anything. Even against Ramos, who, you know, he's got a bit of a chin, but he's not like a moose, you know, like you hit him, he'll let you know you hurt him. So I don't know. I think it's his striking is a little unrefined. Also, his grappling has a long way to go if he can just get taken down like left and right and right. And in the division that they're in, that division, there's strong grapplers, yes, but there's a lot of really strong strikers. And the caliber of striking that he's starting from, he's still got a lot of work to do to catch up. Like, even against like Burgos, who's number 13, or Dawadu, number 15, I think he would have some issues, especially with that really low guard and no wrestling. Like, I feel like that would be a recipe for some uphill battles. especially when it hits a guy like Giga Chikadze,
Could you see Ramos making it into the top 10 if he can fine tune the takedown where he could keep the guy on the ground instead of letting him back up after like 10 seconds? Because I could see that if he could keep the guy on the ground, because then he'd wear him out a little bit more, and then he wouldn't be getting outstruck by this because he'd have the guy on the ground.
Yeah, I mean, it's not off the table. It's the thing is they're both really green, so they do need some more like bottom 20s or 30s fights to improve, especially on like the gas tank thing. They can't be gassing out against some of these guys in the top 10. There's no way. But maybe give them, like, for Ramos, start him off with like a Charles Rosa or a Derek Minner, once they're done doing their fights. Maybe match him up there, see how he does. And then once he's kind of built up some of that experience, I think he could have a real shot at like maybe the winner of Dawadu versus Evolev, number 14. They're scheduled to fight, or maybe Burgos would be a good place to start. But I think once he hits Bryce Mitchell, then we're having some issues. I don't think he's up to snuff to deal with Bryce Mitchell quite yet. But if he can get past Bryce Mitchell, his next big, I think, hurdle in terms of like the grappling department would be maybe Arnold Allen. But I think he might be able to stand with Arnold Allen with grappling. It's just the striking against like Barbosa, Chikadze, even Youssef, I think could give him a run for his money with that striking ability. So, I mean, he's capped right now because he's got like the beginnings of a well-rounded game. It's just there's no one part of that game that's really strong that could carry him into the top 10. At best, bottom 15s, like 13 to 15 range at best.
Yeah, but I do want to see him in the next fight show improvements with the ground. Keep him on the ground, try and do a little bit of side guard and front guard, because like if he can use that to where he can transition to the back on there, you can see a little bit more of the submission game out. It's going to be a lot easier to lock in a rear naked choke when the guy is down compared to him carrying you on his back. Because he could just easily try and throw you over, which Algeo was doing. So I can see him doing a lot of work with that, trying to work on not so much taking the guy down because he did that easily, but keeping him down, because then it'll work out better for him in these fights where even though he did win 3 rounds, it's going to be more decisive than it was in this matchup.
Right. Yeah. He's definitely got some shit to work on, but I mean, it depends on how he learns, right? Like you can have some good matchups, but if you don't learn anything, then, you're just never going to get any better. It's kind of like, who's a good example of that? I feel like that's kind of maybe a little bit, Dominic Cruz a little bit, because he kind of shot up at the beginning of his career to like get into the top 10, and then after he's been there a while, it's like you're actually kind of like a mid-10s, like bottom 5 sort of guy, But I think a part of that is just he never really adapts to new strategies. It's just like the same guy all these years later with like minor adjustments here and there, but his game hasn't really changed dramatically to where he's like, oh, that's not a weakness for him anymore. It's like, no, the same weaknesses he came into the UFC with, he still has today. So, I mean, it's kind of like that.
But he does have a great gas tank. So
he does. That's I think he's like an NCAA Division I wrestling. Like, that's going to help. That wrestling background's going to take you a long way, especially in the old days.
But moving on, before we go to the third fight on the card, I just want to announce, I mentioned it last week, I'm supposed to be in the Mecca Season 4, which is going to start June 5th. There's supposed to be around 32 competitors in it. We're supposed to have the cast announcement this weekend. I think he said Saturday, if I'm not mistaken. I believe it's Saturday, but I'm hyped for that. We're going to, every week, basically, you go on Tapology and you make your picks for the full fight card. So you just have to say who you think is going to win and by how, whether it's going to be submission, decision, or knockout. And I believe you got to put what round, too. So it's going to be interesting. I'll be making my debut in it. So I'm psyched for that, and then at least I get this break this weekend for Memorial Day before we get started on that.
Got an off week,
yeah. So we got Alex doing this, Exactly.
Box?
He's in it. So
okay.
He's in it. So it's
Why
gonna
a
be
box,
it's gonna be interesting.
What does that mean?
There's a whole thing behind that. I don't have to explain it to you.
I thought that was like a universally understood thing.
No.
I was like, am I just old and I don't get what the kids are saying these days?
No,
like,
you are old, but
it's both things. Both things could be true. Oh,
but yeah, I'm looking forward to. He said we got Jimmy the Drunk. Where can we find this Mecca? You can find it on YouTube under the Rapid Dog Ark. He's the guy that runs it, Mr. Arkansas. Check it out on YouTube. I'll post on my video on Thursday. I'll post the name of the YouTube channel on there so everybody can find it and tune in whenever we go live for the Mecca, because what we do is after each fight card we're going to go live, and then there's going to be do like the kind of Survivor style where like if you're first you can you got the higher power, and then the bottom three, the higher power can choose from the bottom three to eliminate somebody, and then each week somebody gets eliminated until the very end where somebody wins, and then the Mecca champion. So
that's rough.
Yep.
That's rough.
He said your friend can join too.
Oh, sweet. Can be part of the bloodbath.
Yes. Cheers.
I do know that one. That one I know. I don't know that one. That one, I don't know that one. Is that a frog?
This is too much to explain here, but that's a funny story in itself.
So it's a different. Okay, I thought it was like another universal thing. Okay.
No, inside joke. There, big inside joke. But let's move on to the third fight on the card. We have a women's featherweight matchup, which pitted Norma Dumont, 6-1 record, 2-1 in the UFC, who defeated Felicia Spencer, who fell to 8-3, 2-3 in the UFC by split decision. What did you think of this matchup?
I mean, this was a pretty dominant performance from Dumont. Like this was a good showing for her, for sure. And I think this is a great example of why, personally, I think like having Taekwondo as the main feature of your fight game can be really problematic. Like it looks nice, you got good technique, you have a variety of kicks, but there's a lack of power there. And that's because of how that system trains and how they compete, that you lack power, you go for volume, but once the person closes your kicking range, you don't really have any hands. Your hands are garbage. And it's a big Achilles heel, and it creates fighters who mostly win by decision, right? And I think that's kind of what happened to Spencer here. She had like good technique. It's just that Dumont outstruck her because she eventually figured out, oh, it doesn't matter if you kick me because it doesn't do anything. Like it's fine. I'm just gonna go in there and piece you up. And that's exactly what happened. Like Spencer was like throwing in her kicking technique. She got some body shots. Like she got a couple head kicks or something. And she was pretty quick. She'd like, slip those in there. And then she would land a few, but then it wasn't that long. I'd probably say towards the end of the first, when Dumont figured out like, okay, those kicks aren't really a threat. So I'm just going to blast through that and just, land some real heavy strikes. And then from then on, the second, third round was just her blowing through, all of Spencer's defenses and just landing some really nasty shots and just piecing her up. And I mean, even though she really only came alive, I would say the last 2 minutes of the first, she did enough work that in my opinion, I gave her all 3 rounds. Even the first one, even she started kind of slow. I think she did more enough work to make up for kind of the ground she lost when she was being hesitant because of the volume coming at her. Dumont also was excellent at keeping control in the wrestling exchanges. She basically kept Spencer fighting her fight instead of fighting the fight Spencer wanted to fight, right? And I mean, in the third round, there was one moment that I think just kind of showcased all of it where, Dumont took her down, had some awesome like top side pressure control on the ground, and then was like, fuck it, I'll let you up so I could beat you up some more. And just literally let her stand up so she could fucking beat on her until the end when Spencer got that takedown, but couldn't do anything with it. So I mean, yeah, it was pretty clear who won this fight. There was no arguments. There was no like dispute on maybe she's no. It was pretty much a 3-round domination. But having said that, I think Dumont's striking is still a little unrefined, especially in kind of the weird division that she's in, right? Like the featherweights in the women's, according to MMAranking.com, there's only 4 of them in that division, including Nunes. So like Nunes and 3 challengers, and she's the number 1 challenger.
Well, supposedly there's rumors that they're going to shut down the division.
Well, that'd probably be smart. I mean, 4 people is not a division. That's a book club. Like
we've said it many times on here that they might as well combine both divisions and then just be like, whoever challenges for whatever belt, because it's not really gonna matter. Because like you said, if she only has 3 challengers in a division, that's not gonna look good. But I could see him. Basically plummeting Invicta like they always do and grab more challengers, and then with the Dana White Contender Series come back later on after the Ultimate Fighter season 29,
right?
That they could get a few from there too.
I mean, they could, but I feel
then
like
they got LFA. Then they got LFA, so
that's true.
They have ways to restock it, but it depends on if they want to or not.
Well, I think the other issue is you're going to have like a sort of like a situation that you have in the flyweights, right? Where like nobody can challenge the belt holder. Like if they just bring in all these ragtag people from all these smaller leagues, there's no guarantee that any of them will be even remotely good enough to challenge Nunes. So it'll just be like, we'll watch them fight amongst themselves for a while, and then maybe in a few years,
there is one.
Someone will come up.
There's one woman, but they're going to have to wait until the fall.
Oh boy,
Kayla Harrison.
Possibly. I mean, Kayla Harrison, I think has good striking.
I think she could beat her because of the judo.
Well, that's the thing. Judo is okay. Judo's a good bridge between like getting the standing ground, putting it on the ground. And like, if you don't know what to do on the ground, though, like if you don't have a jiu-jitsu background, that judo kind of like works against you sometimes, especially with Amanda Nunes. Like she's got an excellent ground game. She's a Brazilian jiu-jitsu black belt, very decorated wrestler and ground fighter. So I think even if Kayla Henderson took Nunes to the ground, the challenge would be, can I maintain top control and do ground and pound? Or am I just going to get fucking ragdolled on the ground, go back to the feet, and then be outclassed in the hands? Because that's how that fight tends to go.
You know? She is Ronda Rousey, but with better striking. That's what she is.
That's good.
And then she's only fought in the PFL. She did one fight in Invicta where you if you know PFL, you can't use your elbows at all.
No, yeah,
not at all. So she did a fight in November. Because she's lightweight, Kayla Harrison's lightweight, so she's a bigger woman than Nunes. But she did a featherweight matchup on Invicta in November, cut the weight, which that's the division we're talking about. And she was using elbows, and she was just nuts. It's like, I know Kayla Harrison's good, but this is like a better version because she can use elbows now because she was able to take the woman down. I'm gonna say this woman had no business being in the octagon with her. She took her down and she was elbow. This woman had a gash and stitches.
I think I still have the picture. Hold on.
Yeah, by the end of the night, and she just like you watched it. She dominated her.
I found it.
Okay, we can
check this out. This was pretty bad. Like it didn't look as bad when you're watching the video, but like when you see what her face looks like afterwards, you're like, oh shit. This is really bad. Like that's
there we
the
go.
Star in question. Like, whoo, boy, that's what she looked like. Which that looked pretty bad. We had another one of those last or Friday or Saturday night, but it didn't come out looking like that afterward. Like that. Whoo, that's something else.
It was bad, but I think Dana White had already said that. He's going to make a push to sign her. And then, of course, Bellator, after the Cyborg fight, they asked her what's next. And she said she made a comment that she'd be open to fighting Kayla Harrison. So I think the Kayla Harrison sweepstakes is going to start once PFL 2021 ends.
Well, I mean, it might be hard for her to take Cyborg first, build that street cred, probably get a better offer from UFC once they do take seriously the idea of siding her if she beats Cyborg. Plus, that kind of, puts her as someone who might stand a chance against Nunes, because that's what people were saying about Cyborg is like, oh, this might be the lady who can finally beat her. She got beat to a fucking pulp, but like...
But back to this matchup right here. I said in the preview, a lot of people were picking Spencer. I was like, I'm going to go with the underdog. I'm going to go with Norma Dumont, just for the fact that Spencer is known for grappling, and she's not known for striking. As you can see in this, she did strike pretty decently, but it was a different striking than Norma Dumont. I felt like Dumont's was more effective, and I was kind of surprised that she was able to get a takedown on Spencer, because I thought Spencer would welcome that a lot more than she took, but then she didn't do a lot with it. Like, I feel like Spencer has been on like a free fall. Like, she's not, like, her style is not adapting well to the division. Like, she needs to like have that moment where she's like, what am I doing? Like, is it something that I need to
hold on? Spencer, if I'm not mistaken, isn't she primarily, since she entered the UFC, winning by decision? Like, she hasn't really had many finishes. Like, that tends to be a pattern here, where it's like, if your striking's really not all there, you're an okay grappler, you might control the fight, but you're not fucking turning any heads,
Yeah. But as you see here, Felicia Spencer had 70 of 139 total strikes, 47 significant, 27 to the head, 14 to the body, 6 to the legs, 2 minutes and 58 seconds control time, no takedowns, and no submission attempts, which is shocking. I would have thought she would have had at least 1 or 2. Then you had Norma Dumont, who had 88 total strikes, 68 significant, 40 to the head, 14 to the body, 14 leg kicks. She had 1 minute and 21 seconds control time, 1 of 3 takedowns, and 0 submissions. Like, she is known for her boxing. She did pretty well. She landed some good shots in there. She has work. Like we said, it. She has work, but she does have like a glimmer of a future in the UFC if she can polish up a little bit of what she has. Like, if she could get more accurate with the box, and she'll connect more. And then if she can move better, I think her movement is something that she needs to work on as well. But I feel like this was a good matchup for the victory. Was it? I believe 2 judges did it 29-28 her, and then the other judge, I think, did it 29-28 Spencer, which was kind of shocking.
These are all over the place, actually. So the scores here that I'm seeing on the UFC stats.
No, you know what? The one judge did it 30-27 Dumont.
They did. Or no, one judge, so 30-27 Dumont, that was one judge. And then both judges disagreed. The remaining 2, one thought it was 29-28 Dumont, one thought it was 29-28 Spencer for some reason.
What? I don't know about that. Like, I did give one of the rounds to Spencer, but I think round 1 and 2, I think I gave the Dumont, or 1 and 2. I believe I gave the Dumont, but I had her winning no matter what, because I thought she was racking up the shots, and then she had the only takedown. Like, she had the more overall better fight. Like, she had the leg kicks, she was going to the body, and then the head. She had more to the head, which is why I had her head plus the takedown. The only thing that Spencer had was the control time. She had a little bit more control time than Norma Dumont, but Norma Dumont was able to pull off I would say, big upset, because no one knew who Dumont was before this fight. Everybody knew who Spencer was. She had a title shot before, and then, of course, lost it. So it remains to be seen what's next for Spencer. Whether she, I actually don't know when he loses to somebody like Dumont, who was an unknown. But this shoots up Dumont up that list. She goes from, I guess, 4 to 3.
She was. She's the number one contender now. So I guess she must have started off at 3, because the only other person I've never heard of is Zara Dos Santos.
Okay.
I don't know who that is, but she lost to Felicia Spencer and Megan Anderson. And then above her is Felicia Spencer. And then have Dumont's in that number 1 position. And then you got Nunes, and that's the whole division. Right?
Yep.
that's all it is.
But let me move to the comments right here. We had Alex Cents. He's talking to our buddy 2 Cents. Sup, dudes? What's going on? The championship trophies right there.
I thought those were drinks.
Drinks, they could be drinks and trophies, yeah. Norma looked great. She did. And Big Booty Judy. Sup, General. If you're not re-signed Megan Anderson, then you're probably planning to shut the division down. Well, Megan Anderson just didn't look well in half of our fights. And I think that was more so like she's looking elsewhere and thinking about, and I could see her like there has been like she didn't resign because it was the end of her contract. And then she's probably taking time to herself because I think she did like 500 in the division. Like she had a very good fight. She would then lose badly. Then a very good fight, lose badly. So
I think maybe she was just also like at this level in the UFC. First of all, there's not enough competition.
Yeah.
Like what? Like there's 4 or 5 people in that division. I'll probably have to start fighting down. Yeah. Which I don't know how she'd do. So maybe it just made more sense.
Kayla would be wise to stay in PFL. She's making great money in the Crush Cans. They make good money. I literally just looked at it now. The other day, and I believe, depending on the fighter you are, if you're like an unknown, you're guaranteed a $25,000 a fight. I believe it is.
Wow.
25 or maybe it's 25 total because you only get 2 fights. You only get 2 fights. So there's 25 plus you get 25 more if you make it to the playoff round, and then it's a little bit more for incentives.
Let me see. So here's a full salary for PFL 8. This is just saying how much people made, which actually they made pretty decent money on these. Let me see if there's like a breakdown on how they figure out those numbers.
And of course, the winner gets $1 million. So
that's not bad. You know, you could live on that. That's a little chunk of change.
Because I believe, because that'll be 4 fights, just 4 fights. So you get $25,000 a fight, and that's on top of what you're making,
right? Well, I mean, you also got like sponsorships and anything you're doing outside. That's separate. Do they do like licensing stuff for like merchandise or not really? Is that like?
I'm not sure about the PFL, but I know the PFL is they're putting them in the hotel. They're supplying them the food because they can't leave the hotel, the casino, because the casino holds them, but they're supplying them food and a gym to train in. Like they have certain times that they go. So just for that, like you're set up pretty well. It overall, like I think there's one, like they have a Clarissa Shields who's fighting Brittany Elkins. They're just doing 1 fight. Apparently, it's if they look good, they have a contract to where they can extend it to 2 fights. But I don't think they're in the tournament at all, the PFL tournament. It's just they're going to be fighting each other more so because Clarissa Shields is the boxing prospect coming into PFL now, trying to do MMA. But I know they're making just like I think Elkins, who's like the unknown one, is making like $30,000 for the fight. Which is pretty solid. Which is pretty solid. I think her record's like 3-6.
Well, I mean, if you start off in the UFC, they give you like 10. Like there you go. There's your $10,000. We'll see you again in 6 months. Yeah. Good luck.
Yeah,
it's pretty rough, man.
He said, agreed, Jimmy. Better to wonder if she could contend with Amanda than to get in the cage with her and have Nunes put it to rest brutally. I think it would be a good matchup. Like I wouldn't say she'd win, but I'd say it would be really because of their backgrounds. Because Kayla Harrison's bigger than her, and then she hasn't her one thing is she's only fought 6 times. No, 7, because she's only done 2 seasons of PFL in her career. That's it. But she's won every single matchup, and then she won her first matchup this year, and she's basically dominated most of her fights in that because she's able to just take her opponent down and then just finish them or win decisively by decision. But she has like the build, she has like the stamina to match up well Nunes. It's just that she needs to avoid that Nunes power shot that knocks people out.
Everything. She just can't let her touch her. That's the key. But like, I feel like we would have kind of a similar issue that they had with Cyborg, because everybody would say like Cyborg's the bigger, stronger fighter, so she's going to have a physical edge. But then Amanda Nunes just basically weightlifted for a year, got really fucking buff. And so I feel like if she knows, Kayla Harrison's coming, she'll probably just do the same thing and, kind of waters down that advantage to where it's pretty much even. So now we're just looking at skill for skill,
The one advantage that Harrison would have is to get the fight down to the ground. That would be advantage. I don't care what anybody.
Does she have like a jiu-jitsu background? Because that's the thing. When you get it to the ground, Amanda Nunes isn't helpless. She's very credentialed when it comes to her ground fighting. So let me see. Kayla Harris. Oh, there it is. Judo. She's a judoka, but judoka does deal a little bit on the ground. Judo deals with what they call newaza. Newaza isn't jiu-jitsu. They teach some similar things, but it's really more about like pinning than it is about submissions. Like you can't win by submission in judo. You have to win by just holding them down. I think it's for 3 seconds. Then you get an ippon for that, or like a half point. But she's a 6th-degree black belt in judo, but I'm not seeing anything like jiu-jitsu wise that would help kind of close that gap. That's probably something she's just been picking up, as she's been coming into this.
And like I said, in PFL, she's not allowed to use the elbows, which is why I think she did that Invicta fight to get a little bit of experience using her elbows, which, as you know,
those are a game changer, man.
Yes,
a fucking game changer.
I think she was like, "Damn, I can use elbows," and she just did it a lot. Like she was like, "Damn, I love doing this. I'm not used to this.
It's like getting
let's do this all day."
It's like up, down, left, right. You just want to keep spamming that shit.
ID KFA right in that bitch.
That's funny.
It was good, but like. I just want to see that. That's like the marquee matchup, I think, in the women's is those two. She said, Jimmy said, Larissa Pacheco saw, but Kayla went to decision with her 2 times. Kayla wouldn't have much of a chance against Amanda, in my opinion. But I could have sworn she pieced her up big time in those in the second matchup. Like, the first one I thought was a decent, and then in the second one she just destroyed her, and then he said decision. But she's also like,
well, the other thing I'm saying here that's kind of a red flag. She's got 3 wins by submission, but they're armbar, key lock, and armbar respectively. I mean, those aren't like very technical submissions, and they're not going to get Amanda Nunes. No. Like, you're not going to fucking finish her with the fucking arm bar. Like, I'm sorry, you're just not. Especially if you don't have the kind of credentials that can even like at least be comparable in terms of like ground fighting, because ground fighting on its own is kind of its own world. Like judo, that's great. It's similar to like wrestling. You got that midway point, but when it gets to the ground, that's kind of its own thing,
Thanks to 2 cents. It's like got 100 subs. Sweet. Yep. It's nice having that custom URL now. Make things easier.
Finally got the custom URL. We don't have to do that big long ass string of numbers and random letters anymore. That'll be nice.
Yep. But this is going to be something that we'll have to look on in the future to see after PFL, because I think if Kayla Harrison wins her 3rd one, she's out. She's going to Bellator or she's going to UFC. She's going to one or the other, and then it's going to be Cyborg or Nunes. So look for that. But let's move on to the fourth fight on the card, which was the fight of the night. Heavyweight matchup between Jared Vanderaa, who moved to 12-5 overall, 1-1 in the UFC, who defeated Justin Tafa, 4-3. He fell to, and then 1-3 in the UFC, in which Vanderaa won by unanimous decision. What did you see in this matchup?
This was the fact that it's fight of the night is a little like. Let's be real. It was just because there was a lot of blood. Like that's straight up why they made it fight of the night, because he bled everywhere. Because it wasn't the skills being like put on display out here. There was definitely more technical fights. Basically, all that happened was it was a 3-round domination by a Vanderaa, but it's kind of the fight you would expect to happen between like a gatekeeper kind of fighter like Tafa and a fighter who's only just kind of recently added into the division. They're still getting their feet wet, kind of figuring things out like Vanderaa. But the thing Vanderaa had that Tafa, wasn't even really engaging with was the volume and the combinations. Tafa, he's kind of like Rosenstruck. He just sits back, waits for that counteroffensive to try to end it all with one big punch. But the minute that doesn't happen, he just like has no answers for anything. So he just got overwhelmed.
I interviewed Jared a month ago.
Yeah,
I didn't expect this from him. Like this performance. Like if you've seen his last couple of fights, he was kind of slow in those matchups.
Mm-hmm.
But in this one, he was quicker than those two. Like you said, this was so matchup, but he was putting in a lot of volume. Like he was mixing it in there, throwing those leg kicks, which was something that he didn't do a lot. Like he put a lot into there, and then he was kind of known that he had the reach. He was keeping that. Like he wasn't letting Tafa get inside.
Right. I think that's a mark that he's probably learned from some of the 2 matchups he's had in the UFC. He kind of was like, all right, I got to make some changes, got to polish some things up, because he had a win and a loss, right? I think he lost against Survey Spivak, who's going to be number 15 once they rearrange things, I think.
And then he beat Hunsucker.
I remember that one.
He'd been crashed dummy.
Yeah, so I think he learned from the Spivak defeat and then was like, all right, let me make some adjustments. The question is, like, how much more can he improve? Because he still has a ways to go. Like, he's better, but I just still see him being, like, under the top 15 for a while. Like, maybe he does a match with, like, Chase Sherman or Marcos de Lima, something like that. 2 guys who I think he could conceivably do a good show against. Maybe if he does well there, give him a shot against the number 14 spot. What's that? Pavlich, I think is how you say that, because he's been inactive for a while. He hasn't been fighting.
Yeah.
So maybe not a bad matchup there.
I think he's going to still be like a work in progress. Like, I think it's going to be like another like 2025. Like he's not one of those big like prospects where you're like, okay, let's speed him up. Like he got this win pretty well. Let's move him into top 15, top 20 now. I think it's going to be, hey, he got this one. Maybe they try to book him in a couple months, depending on the medical suspension because of that cut that he had.
Oh, that was nasty. Squirting.
Yeah.
Like, oh, jeez.
At first, I thought I wasn't looking at first. Like I was like watching, but I wasn't like glued in because I was watching that and I was looking on the results at the same time, and I'm like, who's bleeding? Because both of them were covered in blood. And then I looked. Then they showed like a close up of Jared. I'm like, oh, it's him. I see it trickling down his head. And then I was like, oh, I hope they don't stop this fight because he's doing great right now. Right. They better not stop that fight. And then they cleared up. They were able to fix it after round 2, and then it just trickling on again. Mm. But basically, what happened was he was using his length. Keeping Tafa at bay. He wasn't letting Tafa hit him with those big strikes, and then he would just kick him here and there to push him back, kick him again, then push him back. And he was going between the body and then up top, and then he was having a lot of success with that. And then, like as you look on here, Jared had 141 total strikes, 121 were significant, 64 to the head, 34 to the body, which is crazy, and then 23 leg kicks, and then he had 24 seconds of control time, no takedowns, and no submission attempts. Whereas Tafa had 74 total strikes, 74 were significant, 35 to the head, 32 to the body, and 7 leg kicks, and 11 seconds of control time. Mm-hmm. And, of course, 0 takedowns and 0 submission attempts. So they both had a lot of body shots, but I think a lot of Tafa's was towards the end when he was trying to go at Vanderaa. He was being a little more urgent, like, "Oh, I gotta finish him."
He's panicking.
It was hitting, and he was hitting him too. It's just that he couldn't get that knockout shot that he looks for with that left. But he struggled to get inside. I felt like he wasn't trying to because. Like you said, he was standing back like counter style, like you would see Rosenstruck. And because of that, he was just allowing Jared Vanderaa to get going. He allowed him to get going, and then that's why he just racked up all those strikes, and he got a little bit of confidence, and then it just took him through the whole fight. He felt like he could do anything in this matchup.
All right. I mean, that's the danger of the counteroffensive strategy is that if you do it too early, you allow the other person to gain momentum, and then it's harder to stop that momentum while simultaneously trying to like do a big push and get yourself started. Like it usually does. That's basically what happened with the Gane Rosenstruck fight. Rosenstruck was just too laid back, too early in the fight, thinking, I'll just counter, get a big strike, and Gane just played a smart game. So then when like 4th or 5th round rolled around, he's like, fuck. And he just had to like try to, but he couldn't keep up with the guy like Gane, very light on his feet, very, slim considering the division, gives him a lot of mobility. So that's kind of the danger there. You typically only take the counteroffensive as a strategy when you know you're going to lose the decision and you're like, fuck it. Like I can't win with 1 round. So I may as well just try to see if I can feed him enough rope for him to hang himself with and maybe take the finish. But like it's kind of a last ditch effort. It shouldn't be like a front and center strategy, and that's what Rosenstruck is finding out now. He's free falling through the division because the strategy stopped working.
He has a chance to get back on track next Saturday, so
we'll see.
Against Augusto Sakai, but this is clear cut. And Jared Vanderaa all day. He got his first UFC victory, and then. We'll be waiting to see what happens to him next, but I'm going to go out and say like a matchup between, I guess, 15 and 20 because Justin Tafa was probably in that realm. So I think they're going to swap, and then you put Jared in front of him.
Right now, it looks like they traded spots. Tafa's 38, and Vandeera's 32. So he got a little bump.
Okay.
Like if you look into the 20s, that's where like DeLima and Sherman are. That's why I thought maybe those were good picks. They're like mid-20s.
Okay. So maybe you give him like a 20 to 25 matchup and see what he does with that. Like I know Sherman is booked already, so.
He must have been recent because it's not on here. DeLima's free though. DeLima, he could probably beat DeLima. Same sort of thing. He's just a big dude. If he can't take you down, it's like, what's he gonna do?
Sherman is fighting. Let me bring that up right now. He is booked. Yeah, he's fighting August 21st against Parker Porter on UFC Fight Night.
Parker Porter.
He's 15-7. His opponent.
Oh wow, he's fighting down. Parker Porter's 35.
Yeah,
that's a big fight down for him. He's 26. That's like 10 whole spots. Jesus. All right. Well, I guess he's coming off of a loss, and he's kind of new to the division.
That's what happens. Yeah. But before we move to the co-main event, which was dominance in itself. So we won't have a lot to talk about with it. They just made a few fight announcements over the past couple of days. The one that they just made in the past couple of hours was Johnny Walker going up. He's going to be fighting Thiago Santos in the main event of UFC Fight Night on September 25th, I believe it is. And then they announced Kevin Lee is moving up to a welterweight, and he's going to be fighting Sean Brady.
I did see that, yeah.
They also announced Jose Aldo, who's going to be going up against Pedro Munoz. And then, what was the other one?
Can see that.
There's another good one, but in that division.
Let me see if I'm looking. Let me see. Oh, I think Morias, isn't he doing something? Isn't he matching with the number 6 spot?
You got that. I
can't say that fucking name.
Got Brady and Lee. I said that.
In the welterweights or in the bantamweights?
I'm trying to bring it up right now. You know how it is. Okay, here it is. Okay, they finally found a spot for Sandhagen Dillashaw. That's going to be the main event. The main event of UFC Fight Night in July 24th. So they moved that to July. That was supposed to be happened already, but it got pushed back because of Dillashaw's cut. And then they've also, I think that's it for right now. And then we mentioned the other ones, the middleweight ones with the Cannonier, Costa, and then Brunson down till. So we're starting to get like an announcement of 4 fight cards up until October, to where they're starting to fill them out, which is nice. So I think we've got every main event announced for each card going up until then, except for August 14th and 21st. And then they're just going to fill out the rest of the main cards because they got a lot of the undercards filled out already.
Yeah, I'm not seeing anything I haven't heard of here. The stupid ass Nate Diaz fight. That's so dumb. Every time I see it, I'm like, why? And it's still 5 rounds.
Oh God,
we don't need 5 rounds?
No, but they're already committed to it. They committed to it. Apparently, they're paying Nate Diaz a certain amount of money because it's 5 rounds. So I think they're like, we're already paying him. We might as well do 5 rounds to watch him get his ass beat.
Jesus Christ. It's probably not even going to go the full 5. That's the thing. It's probably not even going to get past the third.
It probably will, because the one thing that the Diaz brothers do is they take a lot of damage.
Yeah, but one thing Edwards is good at is shelling out damage. Yeah. Like, he's pretty good at that. So.
Well, at least he can do it better than his brother.
That's true.
Because this Saturday, Fabian Edwards got beat by Mr. Van Zandt. Austin Vanderford. He was able to. That's another guy. If you saw Vanderaa's cut, his was worse.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I'll show you.
Oh, the little tiny one, the little baby cut.
No, he had one. It was just all over him.
Yeah, when he was bleeding, but when they cleaned it up, I think it was like really small. Hold on, I think I can find it.
It might have cleaned up well, but then like he had it all over him because of that last minute of fighting.
Hold on, because that's the thing. The face cuts, man, they're typically not that bad, but they will bleed like a motherfucker. Like they will just,
especially if you get hit with the elbow. Like you get hit with the elbow, that's like cut central.
In Brocator, they have a specific way of throwing elbows just to cut people. They do it like this. And I think the saying is like, you shape your arm like this because boats shape like this and boat cut water. So, so elbow cut face, I guess. I'm trying to find like a cleaned up picture because all you can find right now are like the real bloody ones. I can kind of see it a little bit in this picture. It's like a little baby cut. It's not that big. It's maybe, I don't know, an inch and a half. It's this little guy right here because you can see the blot where it's coming out, but that's the actual. That's the actual cut right there.
I was talking about Arston from Bellator.
Oh, never mind then. Okay.
I
thought we were talking about that one.
I was talking about him, but I knew his was small, but it was just gushing out. Oof. But let's move to the co-main event right here. The domination mode, which was a women's strawweight matchup, which saw Carla Esparza, who moved to 18-6 and 9-4 in the UFC, who defeated Xioanan.
I know that one. I took 3 years of Chinese. I can say Chinese names.
She fell to 13-2, 6-1 in the UFC by second round TKO. Yep. What did you think of this matchup?
Xioanan needs to work on her fucking jujitsu. That's what, like, holy shit.
She shall not.
She is helpless. Oh my god. Like, just watching the first and second round, it was like, even the commentators, did you hear like Bisbing? They were like, what is that supposed to do? That doesn't do anything. Why is she doing that? But like, it was clear she was like fish out of water, no idea what was going on, especially like those side control defenses were particularly bad. Personally, I thought her inability to like know more than one escape for the scarf hold position was also pretty bad, especially when she almost armbarred herself that one time with the legs. That was like, how did you even do that? But I mean, this was just Esparza had a really good game plan going into this fight, and she executed it perfectly. Like, first round, she didn't waste a second, just took her down immediately, just like bam.
I thought it was crazy that Jan ran after her right away. I was like, don't do that. She's just gonna take you down because she's gonna use your momentum against you, and that's what happened.
I think she was trying to get in close so she could start inflicting damage, right? Because that had to be Xiaonan's game plan, is wear her down in the striking. Yeah. But Esparza, I guess, like called her on her fucking bluff and was just faster than the punch, slipped in before she could throw anything, immediately got her down. And it was just the entire round. Xioanan couldn't do anything, just fucking nothing, just stuck down there. At the beginning of the second round, what happened was, I think, is that first round kind of got in her head a little bit. So then Xiaonan's like, all right, got to be a little bit more careful. Can't just rush in again. So she was like kind of skittish almost, that weird point where you don't want to go in, but you also want to strike, but you can't do both. But then she did the dumbest thing you could possibly do. Just the biggest error she made in the second round was throwing that fucking body kick. It's like, what are you doing? Do not throw kicks at somebody who's just going to absorb it and just ride your leg down to the ground. That's exactly what she did. She's like, I'll let you.
If she was going to do, if she was going to do it, do it to the legs. Not
it has to be calf and below. Yeah. It has to be.
Yes.
I mean, anything else is a bad bet.
Because then you can do it a lot, and then as you're doing it, you can kind of slow it down a little bit because you're putting pain to the legs with each shot.
Right.
Don't go for the stomach where she has a chance of catching you and just throwing you down, which basically what happened. And then you're just done because
it was the same thing with the Sanhagen Sterling fight. That's exactly what happened to him too. Yeah. He was like, oh fuck. So that's just a bad strategy. At least if you kick to the calf, even if you kick to like the meat of the leg, like in a tie kick, there's still a decent chance it gets caught. If you're up against like guys like, Gaethje, and I think Ferguson does that thing where they try to like catch the leg kicks and pull it in and charge forward for a takedown. But calf kick so far, no one's figured that hack out.
Yeah.
So you're safe on that one. But that was, and then the top side crucifix. Oh, fuck. Oh, those are nasty. You can't get out of them. That's the problem. They don't do anything on their own. It's just you can't do anything to get out of them. So you're like, well, shit. Now we just wait till the ref calls it,
Well, just look at it. The fight lasted a round and a half, and she had over 170 strikes. Which is crazy, but then I can see now because now a lot more significant. Yeah. She was just she had her down on the ground. She just little by little she was just hitting her. Because as you see here, Esparza had 170 total strikes, 27 more significant, 27 to the head, 0 to the body, 0 to the legs, a whopping 7 minutes and 8 seconds of control time for a round and a half. And then she had 3 takedowns and 0 submission attempts. Whereas Jan had 31 total strikes, 5 were significant, 4 to the head, 1 to the body, and then the rest were 0 because she had no time to strike at all. Just look at her head. Just look at her head there. It's all red. It's all damaged because that's what happened to her. She got
from all the elbows. That's why it's so red.
Because I think a majority of this was a couple times Esparza would throw her down, just like in the picture. She would hold her head down, and then she had control of like right there. She had control.
That's the topside crucifix. Yeah. That's what she finished her with. Just
and she, like there's nothing she could do, and she was just punch, 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 elbow, 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 and then she eventually like bloodied her up, and then just kept beating her to a point where the ref was like, "Oh, it's done. It's done. She's no way she can defend back." And it was like, when were you going to decide this? The first elbow or the 20th elbow? Because
I think he waited because Xioanan was trying to defend. It's just her defense was pitiful, and you wouldn't know it was a defense unless you know what she's trying to do. She was trying to bridge out of it. Like if you watch, there's that thing where she was like throwing her body up. She was trying desperately to bridge Esparza off, which is not what you try to do in that. You're not going to do it unless you're like crazy strong and you can just like explode into it and get them off of you. The problem is all they got to do is just kind of put all their weight on their side and you're fighting an uphill battle. It's like side crucifix. She had a better chance when she got that arm like around in front of her face a little bit. But the problem is she didn't get both hands and try to like, sink the second one out, get her off, or at least get back to a side control position because that's better than a fucking top side crucifix. Jeez, but she just, again, she doesn't know what she's doing. She desperately needs to take some jiu-jitsu classes. Like, I feel like that's the other thing with Wei Zhang or Zhang Weili is she doesn't seem to have a great grasp of like ground stuff, like more striking and wrestling, but the ground stuff, she's like, she's still picking it up. I don't know if in China, they're just not big jiu-jitsu people. Like, I don't know what it is, but it seems to be a deficiency they need to work on.
But they interviewed Esparza afterwards, and she said she wants her title back. She was the inaugural strawweight champion, in which in the finale of the Ultimate Fighter finale, where she won the title, the person she beat was Rose Namajunas. So she can beat her. Both Rose has improved a lot. But I think that'd be a good matchup. Like, of course, I think Wang's gonna get her rematch.
Well, did you hear that Dana White's actually like he's torn. He doesn't know who to sign up for that fight. Is it going to be Zhang or is it going to be Nima or is it going to be
either's going to be good because you got Zhang Weili who is motivated for revenge, but then you got. But then you got Esparza who just had this dominating matchup where she just dominated Yan so badly, and she has beaten Rose. So it'd be a rematch, which would entice Rose to correct that mark on her record that she had by losing.
I think Dana White's looking for which of those fights makes more money, though. I think that's ultimately what's going to decide.
It'll be Zhang. That would make her more money. But then he's considering Carla because she matches up well with Rose.
That's true.
She could get Rose to the ground to where Rose couldn't get those shots on the feet, and then she could control the time. That's basically why she won the first fight.
It'd be basically a big grappling match. They're both very good grapplers, especially ground stuff. That's
she'll be able to try and minimize the damage by having her on the ground and then do what she can do. But like whichever one they pick, it'll be a good matchup. I just hope it's Zhang because I want to see the wrath of the Chinese woman.
Oh, she's gonna be so mad. Oh boy, she's coming out hot. She's gonna be throwing heat in that rematch. Holy shit. But I mean, they're probably going to give it to Zhang Weili, mostly because people really want to see that rematch because of how flukish that win was. It was just like freaking out of left field. So I think maybe in the meantime, give her a rematch with Jacek because she actually lost to Jacek as well.
Okay.
I think it was the second fight of her career. She went up against Jacek and she lost. So maybe that's a good time for like Esparza to be like, number 2 in the division, and we fought before. It's like part 2. It's like a benchmark. See who's improved more, sort of thing. Plus, it gives them time because they haven't even scheduled the rematch. So she may get it, she may not. But if she
probably won't be until won't be to September, October.
Yeah, it's gonna be a while. So I mean, if they give it to Wei or Zhang Weili, then you got Esparza sitting here for what, over a year, waiting around to get that the winner or the loser.
So she beat Rose in 2014. So it's been 7 years. So that's a lot of time.
It's been a minute.
She submitted Rose.
Oh, interesting.
She submitted Rose, but then she defended it right away against Xioanan, and she lost by second round TKO.
Knockout. Yeah, you got finished.
And then she did that. Then she lost 1-1. She lost to Claudia and Suarez, and then since then she's racked up 5 straight victories. Yeah, the last 3 were Waterson, Rodriguez, and then Jan. So she's had 3 top 10 wins in the last. Oh, and then the 4th one was Alexa Grasso, who she wasn't in the top 10, but now she is. She's at the 10 spot. So she has won. Had good competition, so she's going to look to improve. But it depends on what they do with her. If it's not her, I do agree with that. Maybe Xioanan, because they're looking to. The last time I keep hearing that she's coming back. She's going to keep fighting. She wants to make her return, and I thought it was August, but then I haven't seen anything about her return. So until we see something, I'm going to speculate that maybe they just have her sit and wait, as far as sit and wait for a little while before you get somebody who she hasn't fought. Because I'm going to look right here at the rankings.
They're going to probably do some moving around come tomorrow. But right now, as it stands, it looks like that realistically, Esparza, she's probably going to have to wait on that rematch. She already beat Xioanan. The only person ahead of her is Jacek. So she'd have to fight down if she wants something like in the immediate future. So for me, when I'm looking at it, I'm like, I mean, if she wants to fight up, Jacek makes sense. If she wants to fight down, she can maybe do
and then the rumor right now is Mackenzie Dern is fighting Marina Rodriguez.
Oh, interesting.
Which is the 5-6. So it wouldn't be them. So
I mean, maybe get the winner of those two.
She already beat 8 Claudia, 9 Waterson, and that's basically it. So she more than likely she's gonna wait, because she's gonna move to 3, maybe 2, because how long are you gonna keep Xioanan at 2 while she's been inactive? So that's the only logical thing, unless they make a wait. So.
I guess we'll see how they move the divisions around.
They better not have her fight. They better not have her fight Nina Nunez. They better not.
I was gonna say anything below 5 just doesn't make sense. Maybe give her the winner of Dern Rodriguez, and then give Xioanan the loser of Dern Rodriguez, and you can kind of mix and match there while you're waiting for the logjam at the top. But anything below that just doesn't even make sense.
Yeah,
it's like, what would be the point?
Yep. But let's move on to the main event of the card, which was a bantamweight matchup between Rob Font, who improved to 19-4, 9-3 in the UFC, and he defeated Cody Garbrandt, who fell to 12-4, 7-4 in the UFC by unanimous decision. What did you think of this main event?
I mean, this was a good fight, I'd say, but there's a lesson here, and the lesson is basically this is a good example of why 5-round fights are so different from 3-round fights. It's not just more time. There's a lot more to it than that. And what really beat Garbrandt here was those 2 extra rounds, because there's a fundamental difference in the strategical approach to a 5-round fight versus a 3-round fight. And Garbrandt really didn't take that into account. And that was the kiss of death for him. So basically, first round I gave to Garbrandt. He did a great job. The problem was he played his hand too early, and then he got managed. So the first round, his basic strategy was fully on display. You got a pretty good idea of what Garbrandt's game plan was for dealing with Font. He would basically like stay outside of the striking range, and he would, slip strikes by kind of moving back or sliding away, and he'd just kind of keep moving around. So he'd kind of dance on the outside of the range. Meanwhile, he's looking for, the counter strikes, looking to place those combinations where he could kind of piece them up in those small opportunities, those small windows. And then once he reaches the cage, he would kind of use his head movement and his overall like kind of evasive movement to kind of slip in past the guard and try to get a takedown, get a little control time, see if he can keep him down, maybe force some wrestling, and then inflict as much damage as possible on the break, and then just rinse, repeat. And he did really well for the first round. Like the strategy, it was working. He did a good job. I think they both had like some good exchanges, but overall Garbrandt did more work, and he just had more of those like, oh, fuck, he really got him there. He just had the better end of those exchanges. The problem is his strategy was working into the beginning of the second round. They had some interesting grappling exchanges with the ground fighting, that whole using a Kimura to throw over and pass. But then Font figured out what was going on. He figured out Garbrandt's strategy halfway through the second round and then just managed him for the rest of the fight. Like all he did was just come up with a counter strategy and just
right there.
Yeah. Jab. That's basically it. All he did was camp out behind his jab, using his range to keep Garbrandt away, keep him on his back foot, and then set up those big power shots. And then as soon as he saw Garbrandt hanging out near the cage, he knew it was coming next. So Font would just stay patient, not like rush in and try to like do a big flurry of punches. He just kind of stay back a little bit, wait for the takedown, stuff it, and then go back to camping behind his jab. And that's all he did for like rounds 3, 4, and 5. And Garbrandt won. He already played all his cards. He didn't have anything left in reserve to like pull out and go, counter strategy to your, like it didn't work that way.
He started to get tired halfway through round 2, which he then round 5, he did get like that second wind. Mm-hmm. But like you said, like he did something different. He started out with the wrestling, which he's only had one takedown before this matchup, which is crazy because he has a wrestling background going into high school and all that. Got a comment, Bot must have dropped that right hand on him over a dozen times too. Yep. Exactly. But he was able to take him down a couple times in the first round. I had him edging out Font in round 1. It was close, but I had him edging out that round. And that's the only round I gave him. But Font was able to work after he noticed that he was doing that. He was able to do work. He was just moving around. That I thought Cody Garbrandt would have been more the aggressor in this fight, like pushing forward. But the crazy thing is, it was Rob Font. Rob Font was the one pushing forward the whole fight. He just wasn't putting out way too much. He was just like push forward, jab. Okay, let's back pedal around, push forward, jab, hit to the body. Mm-hmm. He did a couple kicks here and there, not that much, but he was connecting to the body and then to the head, and then he would just kind of rinse, repeat that notion, and then he wasn't letting Cody get comfortable. Cody couldn't do what he does best because he was moving back for 75% of the fight. Mm-hmm. Except for when he was shooting for the takedowns, which he was successful in the first round. But then once Font knew what he was doing, he was able to start stuffing them. He was able to stuff them, just use the cage to lean on, to defend the takedown, and then he was just having advantages. The one moment that I thought was funny in the fight, I think it was round 3, Font hit him with a nice, I think, right hook. Garbrandt fell back, leaned down, kind of like what he did against Rafael Sunsao with a second left. He did that, and then he went in, and then he
that simultaneous pop.
He knocked out a Sunsao. But Rob Font must have did his homework. He must have watched footage of it. Yeah. Because once he fell back, Rob Font, it looked like he was going forward, and then he just backed up. And then you see Cody go like this. He go to stand up, and then he's like, "Oh, he's not there," because Font was like very patient, all fight patient. Like he wasn't overdoing things. He wasn't going erratic. He wasn't going berserk. He was just jab, jab, move. I'm patient. I know what I'm doing. I'm just going to continue to do it. Like his gas tank is very well. Like I wasn't sure of how it was going to be because of it being a main event being 5 rounds. You got to gauge how they're going to do in the first 5-round fight because all of them has been 3. Cody has done 3 or 4 or 5-round fights, so he's established in that aspect. But he did well. Like I didn't see him get tired at all. He was just being not conservative, but he was just smart.
Well, he didn't need to. That was kind of the problem is when Garbrandt showed his hand and he's like, this is my strategy for the whole fight. Then all Font had to do is go, oh, that's it? Okay, cool. Then I'm just going to like do the minimum to make sure that doesn't work. That's all he had to do. So it was easier for him to manage his gas tank because he's like, well, this is all he's doing. So he's probably not changing it up. Like the way you're supposed to structure a strategy in a 5-round fight, your first round is like your recon. You know, you're looking for the weaknesses in your opponent's game. And usually you have an idea of what they are. So you're just kind of like testing. You're like, all right, is this going to be the thing you haven't worked on? Or is it this thing over here? Or is it maybe this thing you didn't even think was going to be an issue in this fight? And then once you find kind of where those weaknesses are, kind of get a feel for where you can attack, that's the second and third round. You just kind of chip away at them and you make adjustments as you go along. And then in the 4th and 5th round, that's either where you double down on what's working because you've already, you know, done well in the first 3, or you pull out your fucking wild card out of your back pocket to try to secure a finish because you might not be able to win by decision, but at least you can set up the next 2 rounds to wear them down enough to get like a knockout or a submission. But Cody Garbrandt was just like, nope, all in on the first round. And so there was no build. There's nowhere to go. He didn't have that like Joker wild card to pull it out the last minute and go, haha, bitch, counter. Like, no, he put everything out there. And so Font's just like, all right, I know what you're doing. I've got better range. I can stuff your takedowns. I can just take my time, set up my power shots, know exactly what you're going to do, know where you're going to be before you're fucking there. So yeah, he just took the last 4 rounds, no problem. So I don't know. I think it was just like, first off, if this had been a 3-round fight, I think it would have been harder to judge. I think there would have been a case for Garbrandt maybe getting a win because that second round he did well at the beginning, and then Font kind of pulled ahead in the second, which would get them like 1-1, and then maybe like a disputed round. Or even if it was just a 3-round fight, I think the approach Garbrandt uses is better for a 3-round fight because you only got 3. You just got to go. You know, you got your first round, you kind of recon, you scout a little bit, but 2 and 3, everything goes out the door. You got to get it out there because you just don't have enough rounds.
Maybe he doesn't do the wrestling in a 3-round fight because he has to be more urgent because he knows it's going to be only 3 rounds. So you got to make sure you get that first round right away. Or maybe he goes first round and he uses his striking, and if he's able to pick that up, then he switches to the takedown style.
I was going to say
in the last
integrated
2 rounds,
into 2 and 3 because he was very successful. The problem is Font just caught on too fast. So if he had taken the first round to just feel him out, there's some strikes out there, trade with him, and then hit him with the wrestling in a 3-round fight, no question that would have worked really well.
It just Rob Font was just he was never in danger. Even when he was getting hit with good shots, as you know, he's never been knocked out. He has a really good chin because Cody, he was definitely hitting him with some good shots. He was just absorbing them and then right back to work, absorbing them right back to work. It was taking him, and then he was using his reach advantage easily. This like he had 6-inch reach advantage. It was just like, okay, I'm staying within this hand right there, jab. Like you're not going to get inside of me, except for when he got taken down early. Of course, like he was like, okay, I know what you do now. You're not getting past this line, and then that's what happened. He wasn't getting past that line until late in the fight. And then, as you see here, you have a Rob Font who had 183 total strikes, 176 was significant. He had 145 to the head, 23 to the body, 8 of 10 to the legs. He had 1 minute and 13 seconds control time. He had 2 or 3 takedowns, 0 submission attempts, whereas Cody had 78 total strikes, 63 were significant, 45 to the head, 8 to the body, 10 to the legs, 3 minutes and 2 seconds control time, majority in the first round. And then he had 3 of 10 takedowns, successful, and then 0 submission attempts. And then, of course, you look at Cody's body right there from the legs up, they're just red because he took a lot of damage, like just from everywhere. And then, of course, Rob Font looks like I just came out looking good, and
he looks
no
like
red, no nothing.
He looks like a Simpson. He's just all yellow.
Yes, yeah, like he dominated this matchup, and it was shocking. Like it's crazy to think. You got the two faces of Cody Garbrandt now. He started out 11-0 in the UFC. Last 5 fights now, he's 1-4. So like what is happening to Cody that's making him lose now?
I don't know. It's interesting because it wasn't the last win he had against RDA. Let me see.
Before the streak.
Yeah.
It was he won the belt from Dominic Cruz.
Oh, that was the last win? Oh, wait, what am I seeing here? That's super weird.
He beat Dominic Cruz, then he lost twice to TJ Dillashaw, then he lost to Pedro Munoz, then he beat Rafael Sunsao.
Oh, that's what I'm thinking of.
With the second left.
Sunsao, yeah, okay.
And then he loses here to Rob Font.
Yeah. It's so weird. Doesn't a Sunsao have like a pretty decent like ground background, like a ground fighting ability?
Yeah.
Which you'd think, I don't know, maybe it was because the Sunsao, when you got two good grapplers, they just stand and trade, and the Sunsao just wasn't as good at punching. But it's like when he goes up against good punchers, he's just outclassed, which he's not a bad puncher. It's just he's just getting outclassed by like Pedro Munoz, who I thought Garbrandt would have a better chance against Munoz, but apparently not.
Got knocked out by him. He got knocked out by him.
Yep, it's crazy. Man.
I just don't know, because like he was dominating, like he was like a guy you feared, and then he won the title. Then he wins the title, and then it was downhill. I think in most of those matchups that he lost, he was talking too much shit, and then he was just self-destructing to where he was just being erratic. This matchup, he wasn't being erratic. He was being he was thinking clearly. It's just like you said, Font was just smart. He was able to be like, okay, he's trying to take me down. Let me game plan against that now. He showed all of his cards early that's what he was going to do, which I kind of, for some reason, I kind of thought he was going to do that because of the reach and the length of Font. And I was like, maybe he tries to do this just to outthink him, to surprise him. I just didn't think he would just keep doing it early. Maybe take him down right away, do that, and then start striking. So then he's computed it right away. Like, he took me down. Maybe he just did that as like a one-time thing in the beginning to catch me by surprise. Right. But then you can kind of like, you do that, and then you sprinkle it in like once or twice each round, because then he's not like right away. He's like, I got a game plan against this like right away. Right. But he tried to do it like every single time, like boom, 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 boom.
It's too much. Like even in the first round, if he had like peppered in striking, taken him down once and gone, okay, I can do that. That's going to work later on. Like bring it up again halfway through. But even at the beginning of the third, that would have been a good place to put it, because he could have just kind of like worked through the range. I think that's the other thing. He didn't plan well for that reach advantage. I don't think he planned at all for it. It seems like, because he was just stuck behind that jab and didn't really have an answer for it. So I think if he had planned better for that reach advantage, and then just in the first round kind of done the trading back and forth, been like, all right, let me mix in like a takedown or two, maybe force a wrestling situation, see how he does with it, go through the second, stand and trade with him, you'll probably lose the second. It's fine. Hit him with the wrestling and the mix-ins in the third, really pull out that strategy for dealing with range, and then carry that over into the fourth and fifth. That would have been a better way to break this down, but maybe it's just because it's been a while since we've had a 5-round fight, so he just wasn't like in that headspace. Like, all right, this is how I got to break it down, like round by round. But
a cool fact that I found out today about Rob Font. Rob Font is the only person to have a victory over 3 former champions in 3 different organizations. He beat Marlon Moraes, who was a PFL champion. He beat Cody Garbrandt, who is a former UFC champion, and he beat Sergio Pettis right now, who is the current champion over in Bellator.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, so he has wins against against a champion or former champion in all three promotions. So now we just need him to go over the one championship to get that one now.
There you go. Have the whole set, the bedroom set.
But the way I see this looking forward is, of course, he's going to slide. He's going to stay at 3. Yeah, because he was 3 anyway.
No movement. Yeah, they just they fought and then they just stayed in the same place.
Yeah, stay in the same place. Of course, you got Sterling, who's the champion, Jan, who's at 1, and then Sandhagen at 2. But then somewhere, Dillashaw going to have to be slid into there somewhere. Somewhere. Since he's coming back, like you said, they're not fighting until July, which makes the things even harder now. Yeah. But right now, like, he's slid right there, like, to where I think he deserves to be in the conversation for a title shot. Like, in that conversation. Right. It doesn't mean he's going to get it. He's in that conversation now because he's moved all the way up. He was able to just piece up Garbrandt. We don't know when Sterling's going to fight. It's probably going to be a while, and for some reason I have a feeling that they're going to be like, okay, he's not going to fight for a while, so maybe they make Peter Yan wait because they're like, with how that fight went, I think the smart decision would be to give him that rematch.
Yeah,
that would be the smart decision. Will they?
What's the Dana White decision, though? What's he going to make? What decision is he going to make?
It's the Aljamain Sterling decision. Is he going to fight, or is he just going to stay out a while? Because if they stay out a while, I could see a situation where they have an interim title fight. And I think the perfect situation would be Rob Font versus Peter Yan. Because you're not going to get the Dillashaw and Sandhagen fight until the end of July. That's 2 months from now. So
Sandhagen also he lost when he was up against Aljamain Sterling. So if we're talking like interim fights, at least Petr Yan is majority wins. He did lose to Sterling, but he's been very good in the division. It's his only loss in the UFC. So I mean, he's got a solid case for he's definitely in that mix. Rob Font's coming off of a win. In fact, he's coming off of a solid win streak. So have those two, and then maybe give like Garbrandt the loser of Sandhagen Dillashaw, and then that can be like whoever wins that between the loser of that fight and Garbrandt. Maybe they can get a shot at the interim title, and then once Sterling shows up again, have Petr Yan step in for that rematch, and then go from there.
Yeah, that could happen. I feel like what's going to happen is they're going to let Yan sit and wait for Sterling, give him that rematch, and then they're going to give Rob Font the winner of Dillashaw and Sandhagen, because Dillashaw right now he's the wild card.
Yeah,
because of course he's a former champion. He's beat Cody Garbrandt twice. He lost the belt to Cejudo, who retired. So he can kind of say, hey, the guy I lost to isn't even fighting anymore. So I haven't lost to any of these guys, I believe. And they basically gave them this shot against Sandhagen as like a number one contendership fight, but with everything going on and then how well Rob Font looked, I think he's going to throw like a wrench into things. And the big question will be, when is Sterling going to fight? When is he going to be able to? Because then once he can fight, if it's sooner, then it's going to be Petr Yan. You can get that fight out of the way, and then you can start going from there. But I feel like it's going to be Rob Font. Either Rob Font's going to fight Petr Yan for the interim title, or he's going to fight the winner of Dillashaw and Sandhagen.
Looks like Sterling is saying he'll be recovered from his neck injury in October. So, like, the majority of the year, we're just waiting around for this guy.
And then he's going to need it.
Wait, hold on. What? So apparently the doctor told him 3 more months and I can start sparring and everything, and I should be 95% healed. Now I'm 80 to 85% healed. First of all, that's not how neck injuries really work.
Yeah.
They don't rank it on a percentile of like, oh, your HP gauge is almost at 100.
Yeah.
You can go fucking spar again. Like, that's not really how that works. But if he's like 85 to 80%, wouldn't he at least be able to do like, Kyoshukeen style sparring, like a what you call it? A kumite, where you don't strike to the head, it's just body shots? Like, couldn't he do that? And he's a grappler anyway. Wouldn't he just be doing like rolling stuff? I mean, he could do at least like maybe some judo stuff, maybe not like jiu-jitsu, because that can be hard on your neck if you're in bottom position, but like he could do stuff if he's 85% healed. I don't know, man. That seems like a really long timeline. Like, what was the injury they say he had? And crushed. Let's see. They had an artificial disc replacement put in his neck. Oh, those can be pretty nasty. Started hitting the pads. So, week 5 starts tomorrow. This was probably a couple of months ago. He said he's already working on pads.
Okay.
He's been doing physical therapy. Yeah. Okay. So he's like at least doing striking practice. I could understand like intensive ground fighting stuff. Maybe he has to wait. Yeah. Artificial disc replacements are pretty rough, but I mean, how did he get that? What was it, like a chip in his vertebrae, or
I don't know.
What the hell happened there?
I just know that one of those two outcomes is going to happen. At some point, they are going to have to decide, okay, we're going to wait for him for the fight with Jan, or we're going to have to move on and do an interim title fight to at least have somebody represent us until you come back. Luckily, at the end of the year, it will likely be like a December fight, because if he's supposedly going to be ready by October, he's going to need at least a month to train. So it could be something. And at that point in time, with it being almost 6-7 months, you have to have like somebody at least do like an interim title fight by them, because I think waiting this long would be wrong, but I think they're going to wait anyway. I think they're going to do that. It definitely
holds things up. All you can do is kind of move the guys 6 and below. That's all you can do.
Because if you do that, if you wait, you book that you can likely book that for December and like have it Jan Sterling, and then make the co-main event fight versus the winner of Dillashaw and Sandhagen, because they're fighting in July. So that gives that fight plenty of time to train as well. And that way you have that plan B set in stone there, to where if somebody gets hurt, you just move one of those guys up.
Yeah. I think, unfortunately, it's probably going to take longer, because let's say you give Sterling like a month to train. After November, he's like, all right, I'm good to start training again. I think he knows that Petr Yan's training like right now, and he's really mad and he wants to whip the shit out of him. So I feel like Aljamain Sterling's in November, when he's like cleared to start doing more hard training, he's going to like, I think I want like 6 solid months of a training camp to get ready for Petr Yan, because otherwise I'm just going to get my ass beat. Like, it's not even going to be funny.
Then you do Jan versus Font, September, October, and then you give him, and then it'll be like at least like around that same time, whoever wins that, it gives them enough time to train, because then they just fought, so then they would have just about the same time. But then with that, the wrench, and that would be, say Dillashaw wins. Dillashaw would be like, okay, I got this win. I deserve a rematch for the title that I never got a rematch for, because he got suspended, and then Cejudo retired within that time. So he technically never got that rematch. And from what I hear, Dana White was like, okay, you have to fight once. If you win that, then you get that rematch. So you got a lot of working to do in that division.
That assumes he can beat Sandhagen. I mean, that's, I think, going to be a challenge for Dillashaw. But if he can pull it off, then I guess he's made a case. But it's funny, Petr Yan actually called them both out, Cody Garbrandt and Rob Font, in a tweet. Did you see this?
Did he?
Yeah, it's pretty funny. He basically said, This was after the fight was over. He's like, I don't know what else you expected. Being calm is not going to be enough to compensate for all of Cody's technical flaws. I wish him to bounce back, though, because I still want to kick his ass in the future. But don't worry, Rob. One day I'll fuck you up, too. I just have other business to handle right now.
Oh, my God. I think he would definitely be the favorite, but I think he's taking him lightly with that tweet. I think he's taking Rob Font lightly because he's going to have more of the power, of course, against Rob Font. But then with how patient Font looked, I think he's definitely going to have the height and the reach. So if he could keep it that way, he would be good.
Piotr Jan's also like kind of default really patient too. So you got like two patient fighters, but the difference I think is
I think Peter Jan's gonna be like, come on, move, come on, hit me.
Well, he's got the wrestling though. He's got that wrestling that he fucking whipped out. Everybody's like, what the fuck was that? Like, I don't think that's gonna be the thing that Font can't counter. Like more than anything, I think that's gonna be the trouble spot. But we'll see. We'll see. Maybe he is, blowing him off.
It'll be interesting if that were to happen. How Jan would react to a guy doing what he does best, which is that jab. Another guy that uses the jab well. So it's just that he would have a better chance of doing it at distance, whereas Peter Yan likes to get inside and then jab. And move,
I think that would work in his advantage too, because if he's good at getting inside, that just opens the door for that wrestling. That Font's just going to be like, fuck, I don't have anything to counter this with. As he was even like putting Aljamain Sterling in his place with the grappling. That was nuts.
He's going to have to do exactly what he did here. Just keep moving forward, keep push. He's going to have to make Jan move back. That's what he's going to have to do.
Because the problem is if he gets in too close, then he's like, shit, wrestling range. Damn it. I should have been further back. I don't know. This is going to be that would be a tough fight for Rob Font, but I wouldn't count him out completely.
I think if he were to lose, he wouldn't get knocked out. I got to see him get knocked out before I say he's going to get knocked out because he's
watch Piotr Jan just choke him out like a fucking rear naked choke or some shit. Just taps him. But that could be a fight where if it was Peter Yan who won, I could see him win 3 rounds to 2 or something like that, because I feel like either early on, maybe since Font he had to use the first round. I think Yan would take the first round, but then I feel like Font would come in, win the next 2, and then I feel like Jan could take the 4th round, and then the 5th round would be that decider round, because that's a pretty big when you have that chin where you're not going to get knocked out right away. It's just that if he can withstand the barrage of that Jan presents when he just comes in with those combinations. I mean, that's the other thing. He builds steam, so the longer the fight goes on, the more of a nightmare he becomes. And same thing. He's never Piotr Jan's never been finished either. The only 2 losses in his career were by decision and by that DQ. Those are the only times he's ever lost. So I mean, that these are 2 guys who are known for their durability and their power striking. The difference is one of them's also got that hidden wrestling ability that nobody saw fucking coming. And I don't know
how do you think Font would do if he was every now and then he would just use that front kick where you just put your leg forward to kind of push him back.
Oh, a teep. I mean, teeps are useful. They don't have much power though, so he could use that to keep him at range.
Yeah, that's what I mean. Keep him at range, and then
but it's a double-edged sword. It's the same thing that happened with Xioanan and Esparza. When you teep, you are on one leg for a second. So if Piotr Jan picks up on the habit and he gets the timing right, he could catch that leg, and then all of a sudden, oh boy, you don't want to be there. That's not a good place to be. So I don't know. It's just that wrestling is such a wild card, and you don't expect it from Piotr Jan because he never uses it. But when he does, you're like, oh shit, that's right. He does train with really good Russian wrestlers, and he's got a decent background, even though it's not front and center in his credentials. So Rob Font doesn't really have something to counter that. That's the only thing I'm seeing. I'm like, I don't know how to get around that.
Well, at least with Rob Font compared to Aljamain Sterling, Aljamain Sterling was putting in volume against Jan. He just got tired.
He was rushing. He was just rushing from the get-go, like, get it to the ground, get it to the ground. Like, he was sloppy.
Whereas Rob Font has a really good gas tank. So he could hang in there with Jan and move around. Because it wasn't like he was just like, la, 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 you come to me, Garbrandt. No, he was pushing at Garbrandt, but he just wasn't going like rush crazy. Like, I got to get in 15 strikes and then back up and then reset. He was just like, I'm going to come in. 1, 2, 3, move back, push forward, maybe come around. And then he just kept on dictating the fight by holding the middle. Yeah. And what's going to happen to him is Peter Yan's going to come at him every now and then to try and keep him from doing that. And then do those combinations. And then maybe go for like the out of nowhere takedown because he wasn't doing it a lot up until Sterling,
yeah. But I mean, that's the other thing is I wonder how Garbrandt or how Font does when his opponent doesn't play all the cards. When they don't put all their hand out there. Is he going to be like Sterling, where as the fight progresses, they both kind of build steam at the same rate, and then they hit that fever pitch and they're just banging it out? Or is it like, is Font going to kind of like build steam and then kind of peak at 3? And then, Jan kind of like builds and then he peaks a little at 3, mostly in 4, kind of carries that over into 5, because that could be a big deciding factor right there. This fight was easier for Font to manage his energy because there was only a few things he had to worry about. Yes. He didn't have to he made adjustments in the second round and nothing changed for the rest of the fight. So just rinse and repeat. But I don't think he's going to have that same luxury when he goes up against someone like Petr Yan.
Mm-hmm. But that'll wrap up our UFC Fight Night 188 Rob Font versus Cody Garbrandt recap show. Moving on, this weekend there is no fight card, so we won't be on next Monday. We'll take the Memorial Day weekend vacation for us with that. So
I know we could do on Monday. We could watch Jake Paul and Cody Garbrandt because he called out Jake Paul on Twitter. Or Jake Paul called out Cody Garbrandt on Twitter. So we could watch that fight. Let's do that.
Oh, geez.
Fuck it.
Yep. So there won't be anything. So I won't be putting out, of course, a preview show this Thursday. It'll be next Thursday. And then there won't be a recap show Monday. So I'll take the week off from UFC. But I will be coming out with a preview show for One Championship Full Blast, which is going to be this Friday. Which there's a thing with itself. It was supposed to be the Atomweight Grand Prix with all the women, One Championship Empower, but they had to postpone the Empower Grand Prix because of COVID related something. I guess they're having issues in Singapore. Right there, so they had to postpone it to a later date. I'm hoping the middle of June, and then luckily,
just get vaccinated. Just everybody get vaccinated.
Luckily for them, they had the Full Blast scheduled for June 12th. Yeah. They had already pre-recorded all the fights already, so they were able to make the decision that they were just going to push that up until this week's time slot and have it there. So luckily they had a backup plan. Luckily that they were able to record a bunch of fights, and then I think that was the last one that they recorded in Singapore. So they're going to have that. They're going to air that this Friday right on YouTube and Bleacher Report Live. So you can app, so you can check that out. There's 6 fights on the main card. It's going to be a pretty solid one. And then keep an eye out for the news on the new date for Empower, because I was able to interview a couple of the fighters in the Atomweight Grand Prix. And then I'm waiting to hear back about the third one, Denise Zambuga.
What part of the world is that last name from? She like African, or is that like an Asian continent name? Like where is that from? Zambuga. That's so. It sounds like it's almost a little Swahili, but I don't.
Zambunga. Zambunga.
That's even more convoluted. That's even less easy to identify.
The Philippines.
The Philippines. Okay. I guess I don't know much.
She's 8-0, so
interesting. Okay.
And luckily I won't need a translator for this one. So
that's good. That's nice. It's got to be such a pain in the ass.
I was like, am I going to need another translator? And then they're like, no, she knows pretty decent English. I was like, okay, cool. I was like, that's a step up from the last one. Because it was pretty interesting to adapt to that stuff. I've never had to use a translator before.
Yeah, I couldn't do it. It'd just be too. I like having a very free flow kind of thing when I'm in interviews.
Yeah,
like the back and forth. I don't want to have to like script everything, make it grammatically correct, and then feed it to a translator. Because if it's slang, they're not going to know what to do with that. Like,
but we'll be back a couple, of course, not this Monday, next Monday, but the Monday after that, on June 7th, we'll be back to recap UFC Vegas, Rosenstruck versus Sakai. But the next thing you'll see from me is right here, the Cage by IQ's Rosenstruck versus Sakai preview, which will be out June 3rd or 4th. Since I got artist time, I haven't decided which day we're going to record. So this gives me ample time to do my notes and get ready for that. That's going to be a pretty decent card, but kind of like this, where you got a pretty good main event, but then rest of the card. They've already had to cancel Amanda Ribas and Angela Hill for the third time, because now Amanda Ribas has COVID. So I think she's had two coaches get COVID, and now she's got COVID.
Oh God!
So this is the third time this has been canceled. So
that's really
who knows if they're gonna? Who knows if they're gonna
try? Carrier? Does she have it and does not know it? Is she asymptomatic? Like what the fuck?
I don't know, but that's just crazy how every time that this has been rescheduled, that something has happened. Okay, you got Mr. Arkansas. Someone told me you were promoting yourself in the Twitter group chat again. You're a smuck. I'm done with you. Actually, I wasn't.
Sad.
I wasn't promoting it. It was actually I was promoting the Mecca in here, and then Alex posted it in the group. I didn't post anything in there after last time. So trust me, it wasn't me. I'll say right here, Alex posted the thing for me, like he did last time. So it wasn't me. So trust me.
I'm also not Alex. That's not who I am.
Yeah, not you. Not you. He knows who I'm talking about. So it definitely wasn't me who posted in there. I posted in other chat rooms. Definitely not in this one. I've already banned you on my channel. I'm an alpha, bitch.
Oof, okay.
Okay. I didn't post it, so I don't know why you're getting mad. I didn't post anything in there. Like last time, I told you I wasn't going to do it. I was going to respect you, so it wasn't me. If you could go look, ask them. It definitely wasn't me. But, yep. He said, donate $5. I'll let you back in. Sure, why not? Like, I'll donate. Like, if you go look back, like, I usually donate quite a bit in there. But definitely wasn't me. Check it back. But right before we get going, we got the Sakai Rosenstruck. Like I said before, it's going to be next weekend. So we got the time off. I'm looking forward to this matchup. Early prediction: who do you have win this?
This one's a little tougher. I would say Sakai's just got more tools. He's just like you got Rosenstruck, who just kind of sits back and does the counteroffensive sort of thing. You know what I mean? Yeah. He's just waiting to look for that big one-shot finish. And if it doesn't happen, then, you know, he tends to not do well. So I feel like Sakai, who actually has like a somewhat of a grappling background, he's got a brown belt in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, if I'm not mistaken. And he's a bigger guy. He's actually bigger than Rosenstruck, which is interesting. Rosenstruck's a big fucking guy, but he could potentially give Rosenstruck quite a bit of problems just in terms of his size. even just a basic wrestling ability. Don't even need to be that sophisticated because Rosenstruck can't wrestle at all. He's got the ground ability if it needs to go there. So, yeah. I mean, I think he's just got more options there, and he's got a better chance of winning. So,
yeah, no, I agree with that. But let's wrap things up right here. Of course, we're affiliated with the Sports Box right there. You can check them out on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and then subscribe to their YouTube channel. We are at Cage by IQ, the number one place for MMA content. You can follow us on Instagram, Twitter, YouTube, and Twitch. And don't forget to subscribe on the YouTube channel at Cage by IQ with all the content we have on there. Don't miss anything out with that. And then once again, you can check out the Mecca Season 4, which will be coming back June 5th. I'm supposed to be in it, hopefully. But you can check that out with Mr. Arkansas. They're doing the casting reveal this weekend. You can check them out on his YouTube channel. I'll post the link in that sometime towards closer towards the weekend when I find out what time it's going to be on. So definitely check that out. It's definitely a fun tournament for UFC. You can chime in to the group every weekend for that, and then after every event, they're gonna do the eliminations. So definitely check that out on YouTube. And then if you can donate to the stream, it's a crazy stream that lasts like a few hours, and you never know what's gonna happen in the Mecca. So definitely check that out. Anything you want to say before we get going?
Not too much. I'm going back to streaming again this week. Last week I was trying to, but then, tornado watch, 2 flood warnings. The weather was fucking with my internet connection, so I didn't get to it. But I'll be going live and doing my usual thing on my channel, just back to the usuals.
Yep.
So I'll be around. And then we'll hook up again week after next 7th. There we go.
Yep.
Back on.
Sounds good. But once again, I'm your host, D-Bake. This is Miles Long. And we hope you guys have a wonderful Memorial Day weekend.
See you guys.
Talk to you later.
Thank you for watching this episode of Cage My IQ on the Sports Box. Please remember to follow us on all of our social media outlets. On Facebook at Sportsbox Show, Twitter at Sportsbox Show, Instagram at The Sportsbox Show. Find us on YouTube and join Outside the Box, our Facebook sports discussion group. The Sports Box is brought to you by our sponsor, Showcase Sports in Hamilton. Showcase Sports for the elite athlete. And also our friends over at CrowdPlay. Download the free CrowdPlay app today and use promo code THEBOX at sign up for 10 free points. Thank you for joining us.